Revelation 1392. From the 25th of April 1940. The grace of embodiment as a human being. The embodiment of the beings is a grace and of such unheard of importance, and yet is recognized far too little as that. And exactly ignorance about this is the cause that the time of the embodiment is not used correctly in this last stage, where reason and intellect is given to man to think about it and therefore to draw benefit from correct thinking. It is not the being's own merit to have reached that degree of maturity which now allows the embodiment as a human being. Rather, this degree of maturity is also a grace granted by the divine Creator, whose love for his creatures wants to draw them to himself again. It is this overly great love which let the work of creation come into being, exactly because of the many entities which can develop through the creation up to a certain stage. Without divine help, however, this would not be possible. Therefore God turns all his love towards the being by enabling it to develop to the highest maturity, and the being is allowed to embody itself as a human for this purpose, in order to now receive and be able to use all means and grants given by the eternal divinity. God gives everything unlimitedly, which is helpful to man to lift him up. As human, the being can receive all help, and for that, the divine grant of grace will never stop or be given to the being in a limited measure as long as it stays on earth. Indeed, the love of God has cared for the being already before the time of embodiment as a human, but it had neither reason nor intellect to recognize the divine love, while man is able to recognize the infinite love of God through God's grace, and therefore also grasps the obvious grace, which is given to the being through embodiment. To grasp God's love in its entire depth is indeed not possible for people on earth, but that man is able to think at all is one of the greatest proofs of the Lord's love. For even the ability to think is a sign of divine power. If the being is able to think, it can enter into connection with its Creator, and if it strives for this connection, thus takes up contact with the highest entity, it can form itself to the highest light being already on earth. God himself gives him the possibility to form himself according to his will. And that is a gift of grace of unheard of importance, that God offers the highest to the being, the possibility to become a child of God, and that he gives all means for it in his hand, thus again and again gives graces to the being, only to win it back and to call it his child for all eternity. He even goes so far in his love that he offers the graces even to those who do not consciously desire them, by commissioning his messengers to bring light, although it is not desired. It is impossible to measure this grace, because he imparts to mankind something that presupposes the greatest desire. He instructs his messengers to awaken this desire in people, and to evidently work to bring knowledge of his infinite love to the ignorant. And this working is grace. Grace that comes to all those who use their intellect and reason to want to fathom their purpose of existence. God is close to them with his grace, so that the embodiment as a human being brings them the last redemption. So that the embodiment on earth leads to the last goal, to complete liberation from the form. Amen.